All right, hey guys, welcome to the video. If you're new here, my name is Curtis, and today we're going to be talking about the house of Frederic Malle, and more specifically, a fragrance called Acne Studios. So this was actually a collaboration between Frederic Malle and Acne Studios, and if you're not familiar with Acne Studios is a very modern, kind of trendy fashion brand, and Frederic Malle is a very niche perfume brand. So it's kind of a fusion between trendy and niche. And so they've created this fragrance together. And so I'd like to give my thoughts and opinions on this fragrance. So I do have a sample of it here. And so when I had made my most recent purchase from Frederic Malle, I asked if I could receive a sample of this. And so they ended up giving me this sample. So if you're curious to hear my thoughts and opinions on this fragrance, then let's go. All right, so here's my sample of Acne Studios. Let me go ahead and open this up. And I will be giving this a spray here on my left hand here. So, okay, maybe one more. Okay. Okay, so I mean, this pushes off quite heavily, but basically, you know, what you get from the initial spray here is there's kind of it's very aldehydic. So this is an aldehyde bomb. So if you're not a fan of aldehydic fragrances, this probably is not going to be your cup of tea. But because I think aldehydes too can come off quite sharp and almost kind of piercing to the nose, depending on how they're done, especially when you bring it in close. For me, it's not coming off in that way, but I haven't brought this in close yet, so it might. But from about this distance, it's totally fine. But this is very clean, fresh, almost like laundry-like. There is, see, okay, when you bring it in close like that, it is a bit piercing to the nose. But there is kind of like an underlying kind of fruity sweetness to this fragrance. Now, I haven't looked up the notes, so I'm not exactly sure what is in here, but it is very clean and fresh, which is typically how, you know, aldehydic fragrances come off. You know, they do get compared to laundry detergent a lot of times, and I know for some people that can be very off-putting. You're like, why would I want to smell like laundry detergent? But, you know, I don't know, I actually really enjoy the smell of this one right now. I'm curious to see how if this stays linear or if it kind of transforms into something else. But for now, it's just very clean, fresh, like I said, very aldehydic. There is an underlying kind of sweet fruitiness to this, and I'm not exactly sure what kind of fruit this might be, but you can definitely tell that it's there. There could be like, I don't know, maybe very subtle hints of like vanilla in here. I'm not sure if there's any vanilla in here, but there could be some very subtle hints, which is kind of providing that underlying sweetness to this fragrance. But I don't know, in the air here, as long as I don't bring it close to my nose, from about this distance, it's very pleasant. I actually really enjoy the smell of this, and I would say for me personally, you know, I do have a few other aldehydic fragrances in my collection, you know, like Paper Soap by J-Scent. I'm a huge fan of that one. And so, yeah, I mean, aldehydic fragrances are kind of a genre that's definitely growing on me. And I feel like that style of fragrance works really well here in Japan. You know, as you guys know, I do live here in Japan, been living here for the past 13 years. So, you know, that kind of clean, fresh, you know, laundry detergent, like those style of fragrances work extremely well here. You know, something that's not too deep, rich, and heavy. Typically scents that are more light and airy work a treat over here. And so this is kind of where that, you know, Acne Studios kind of falls into that category of being kind of light, airy, clean, fresh. So I feel like this one could work very well, you know, here in Japan. Yeah, I do like this one. I mean, I guess I don't really have a whole lot to say. It's just very, like I've already stated, clean, fresh, aldehydic, an underlying sweetness, very, very subtle sweetness here, which might be from some vanilla. And there's a slight fruitiness to this, but I'm not sure exactly what kind of fruit it could be. But it's nice. I mean, I can see how, this fragrance, if you're looking like 10 years down the line, will this be a fragrance that people still reach for? I don't know. I think if you look at Frederic Malle and you look at certain fragrances like Portrait of a Lady, I mean, that is a masterpiece fragrance in my opinion that has stood the test of time. I mean, it's been around for over 10 years. And yeah, I mean, I feel like people are still going to be reaching for that fragrance like 10 years later, right? That is a fragrance that, man, I don't know if this fragrance, I feel like, is not on that level. And again, I feel like, that collaboration, with Acne Studios, obviously they were trying to create a fragrance that could fit, the vision of Acne Studios. And I feel like, again, I feel like this is a very trendy kind of style of fragrance. So, I feel like they nailed it when, in terms of fitting that vision for Acne Studios. And I think also, Frederic Malle, they're a brand that creates very niche smelling fragrances that aren't necessarily going to be for everybody. And maybe they were trying to step outside the box and kind of fuse, trying to create something that was unique, but at the same time, a bit more trendy, so that way they could maybe broaden their audience a little bit. I'm not sure, but that's probably why they collaborated with Acne Studios. But I don't know if people are if this is gonna be a fragrance that people reach for like 10 years down the road. But what I can say in terms of my own opinions about this, like, I do feel like this is a very pleasant, and I actually really, really enjoy the smell of this one. Would this be a fragrance that I purchase a full bottle of? I'm not entirely sure. I do like it. I don't know if it's a love for me though. And I think also in terms of my own fragrance collection, I do try to avoid redundancy as much as I can. And, as you guys know, I do have another fragrance in my collection called Paper Soap by J-Scent that also kind of pushes along the lines of this kind of Acne Studio fragrance. Not the same, but, it is an aldehydic balm. It has that soapy kind of clean freshness to it. But I don't know. I think if I own both of those, it would be a bit redundant. I mean, if I want to smell, kind of have that kind of laundry-like aldehydic freshness, I'll just reach for Paper Soap. Now, I can't really comment on the performance of this Acne Studio fragrance because I haven't worn it. I haven't given it like a full wearing, but I don't know. It's pushing off quite heavily here. So, I can imagine, at least on the initial projection, I feel like the projection is really good. In terms of its longevity, I can't really speak to that, but I'm gonna go ahead and give this fragrance a full wearing this week and kind of see how it performs, and see if my take on this like really changes. But I feel like I'm really feeling like the vibe of this. And again, kind of, based where I'm at in the world in Japan, I feel like this is gonna work really well. I feel like this is a fragrance that I could wear to the office too, and it's not really going to bother anybody just because it smells clean and fresh, right? Laundry fresh. Now, I'm not sure really how aldehydic fragrances do in the extreme humidity. And we're kind of rolling into, these humid temperatures now here in Japan. Actually, today it's a bit humid for sure. So I'm not really sure how aldehydic fragrances are gonna hold up in the humidity, but I'll give it a shot this week and kind of see how I get on with this fragrance. But I would say in general, I think it's a good fragrance. It smells good. Is it one worthy of adding to my collection? I don't know. Probably not, but I guess that's yet to be determined. I'll give this fragrance a few wearings and then maybe I'll report back in a future video. But I do think this is a solid fragrance. It smells good, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely taking a step outside of the box for Frederic Malle. In order for businesses to grow, you definitely have to go through change. And I'm not sure if this is the direction that Frederic Malle is going to go in from now. I do know that Frederic Malle stepped down from his own fragrance brand. So, maybe this is the direction that Frederic Malle is going to go in. I kind of hope not. I really, have enjoyed the fragrances that they've created in the past. Like fragrances like, obviously Portrait of a Lady, Carnal Flower, Rose and Queer, Geranium Pour Monsieur, and Musk Ravageur. I mean, many others. They have quite the repertoire of fragrances under their belt there. So I kind of hope that they still create those deep, rich, transportive fragrances that they've created in the past. But I don't know. This might be a step in a new direction for them. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. And let me know down in the comments section, have you tried Acne Studios by Frederic Malle? What are your thoughts and opinions about this fragrance? Well, I hope you guys are staying healthy and well, and I'll see you in the next video.